live. G'day everyone, Mike Jeffrey here, and you are listening to My Creative Journey, Season 2, Episode number 7. In this episode, I am joined by Andrew Keher. He is an amazing wedding photographer and all-around funny guy from Liverpool in the UK. I first came across Andrew with his videos on Instagram. He's been uploading so many funny, relatable wedding photography videos over on Instagram, and I just knew that I had to have him on the podcast because I wanted to talk about his creative journey and how he's been able to do that and able to gain so much exposure, but also the way that he goes about creating those videos. I find them incredibly enjoyable, and I think that he's just such a humble and relatable guy that I really wanted to make sure I was able to tell his story on this podcast. We talk about how he first started his photography journey and the really highs and lows that he's had throughout his career, and going from being in a place where, you know, he wasn't really enjoying his photography and he wasn't being able to be as creative as he first wanted to be in his career. And the reason why he started to drift away from that. And we touch a lot on that in this episode. And you'll hear about how he opens up with the struggles of what he was going through in his career. And I really appreciate how much Andrew brought to the table in this conversation and how open he was and honest he was to go through the real low points that he's had in his career, but then also turning it around and how he's been able to reposition himself and find new life in creativity in his business. So much insightful stuff came out of this conversation, and I really enjoyed having it myself, to be honest, because, you know, it opens up about, we all go through these highs and lows and these different stages in your career. You can be feeling like one season is you're on top of the world and feeling like you're really enjoying what you do, but what happens when that starts to get stale? And I think a lot of people as creatives can tend to just do the same thing day in, day out. And one of the real reasons why a lot of us start is because we enjoy that creative process. We enjoy being able to put ourselves out there and do things that we really enjoy doing. So what do you do when things do start to become a bit stale? And I think Andrew found himself in that place, but was able to pull himself back out by finding community and really sharing about his experience online, talking about the different things that he was able to do to get out of that place, but also just by being himself. And we really talk about a lot of that in this episode, about how to really lean into you and do what best makes you you. And that was the way that he was able to find a lot of success and a lot of comfort in his own work and really push forward for new clients and find clients that he was more comfortable working with, and therefore be able to be more creative within his own business. So I hope that you guys are able to get so much out of this episode. And I really want to say a big thank you to Andrew again for sharing so much on this episode. I know what it's like to be, you know, a more of an introverted person and not want to share this stuff. But I think Andrew and I both know how important it can be to share our experiences with other people in order to help them. Because when you're in that place, you don't really see what's going to be on the other side. But for Andrew, he's a real testament to, you can go through those moments of feeling like it's all just not worth it and you want to give up on your dreams, but then you can change something and you can do things in the reverse of what you thought was possible and come out the other side of it a much better and happier person in business. So thanks so much to Andrew, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Well, g'day, Andrew. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. Early in the morning for you, late in the evening for me, but we made a time work. It's lovely to finally get you on. We've been planning this for a few weeks now. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell the people about what it is that you do?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. My name's Andrew, and I'm a wedding photographer from the UK. I've been shooting weddings for about 11 years now. Full time. That is what I love to do. That's my favorite thing. But this year I've been testing the water with a more content based approach. And I've been making videos and putting them on my Instagram, and they're getting reasonably popular within our community. And I'm not quite sure in which direction I'm heading. This is very early on in my journey. Do you know, I think the reason that I find it so difficult to talk about myself is because I've spent 11 years being so interested and in love with what other people are telling me. I'm fascinated by hearing how my couples met each other, people who are getting married and they get in touch with me, and I genuinely, I want to hear how they met. I want to hear their plans are. I want to hear where they're going on honeymoon. I want to know who's coming to the wedding. I want to know all this stuff about them. I spend all this time learning about other people, and the moment that someone asks me, like you, so tell me about yourself, I'm suddenly flummoxed. I, I get very kind of self conscious. I'm quite the introvert, believe it or not, and I'd much rather hear about other people. However, that kind of leads into what I've been doing this year. I've spent 10 years photographing weddings and being part of other people's lives for that short period of time. And this year I've done something a bit different. I'm putting myself out there in front of other people for a change. And I'm inviting other people to come and learn a little bit more about me and what I do. And it's a whole different game. It's a whole different world. It's very new. Um it's got layers that I'm slowly starting to peel away and discover. And it does remind me of when I started photographing weddings. When I started photographing back in 2013, 2014, I didn't know about the wedding world. I didn't know about the photography community. I didn't know what the trends were. I didn't know what we were supposed to do or act like, or how we were supposed to present ourselves online on our websites. I just worked things out as I went. And I had a lovely 3 or 4 years when I started photographing. I had no fear. I got stuck in with my work. I wasn't comparing myself to anyone. I saw other work because I obviously when you get involved in this, you want to see how other people do it. But I never felt that overwhelming comparison. This comparison game that we often find ourselves in today, it didn't exist. I feel, for me anyway, it did not exist when I started photographing. So I approached everything with this kind of childlike innocence, and I wasn't embarrassed by the pictures that I put out, and I tried new editing techniques, and I played with things, and I showed people my work, and I was so proud of it, and they loved it. So I kept doing it, and something happened. I don't know when Instagram. I think Instagram started about 10 years ago, but I didn't join up very early on. What happened was I started to be more involved in the community, in the photography community. I joined groups. I went to workshops. I made my website, Instagram, Facebook. I entered the awards, the all the big awards that people were going in, the Fearless, MyWed, um, the ISPW, something or other, all the different awards that everyone liked to go in. And all of a sudden, it felt like I was being introduced to a lot of people who were a lot better than me, much better than me. And these people had it together. They had awards, they had workshops, they had huge followings online. And I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but at some point through my 10 years of photography, I really started to feel down about the whole thing. And this saying that comparison is the thief of joy, it's a cliche, but it is true. The reason that we keep repeating these things is because usually there's a grain of truth in it. And somewhere I went from someone who just really enjoyed creating things and sharing them with my couples. I went to this kind of insular place where I was racked by indecision on what to show online, on what to post, on what shade of green my trees were, on what people's skin looked like compared to the big names that I was looking at, on what cameras I was using, on what techniques I was supposed to use. It all started as a journey of discovery, which I loved. And it kind of ended up in this, I don't know, this sinking ship of doubt and cynicism. And eventually I felt down about the industry. I felt cynical about other people's work. Terrible. I was judging people on what they would put out, and I felt mean, and and I would just not realize what a kind of negative person I was turning into, which then culminated in COVID, and we went into lockdown, and everything stopped, and we all became constantly online, even more tenfold. We were looking at everything because we weren't out actually doing any work. We were all on us creative types. We were all on our computers, and we were looking at what everyone else was doing, and it just it enhanced this feeling of negativity and inferiority, because I had time then to really look at what these fabulous photographers were doing, and I looked at my own work and I thought, I'm just not good enough. But then weirdly, I don't know, kind of like, and I'm not comparing myself to this at all, but kind of like the child who is picked on will then often go on to pick on somebody else in the future. It's like this negativity just breeds more negativity. And I was in a bit of a miserable place, and I stopped promoting myself. I stopped posting as often as I wanted to. I didn't network with anybody. And I didn't really tell anyone about this. So unless you're one of my friends who knows about this, this is probably news to a few people who might follow what I do. But I was miserable, absolutely miserable with my work. COVID did not help, and it got to the point where my bookings were down. My actual wedding bookings, the things that I needed to keep doing this, were down. I was not promoting myself. I wasn't getting any work in, and I suddenly realized that if I didn't do something or change my approach, change my mindset, I suppose, I was not going to be able to keep on doing what I love to do, which is to take pictures and to get lots of praise off my couples because they love the pictures so much. That's what I like to do. That is my favorite. That was my favorite thing, and I thought, if I don't change, I'm not going to be able to keep on doing that, unfortunately. So yeah, this year I started to try out these things that everyone else seemed to be having some luck with. Reels on Instagram. I don't really do TikTok. Facebook is not really a thing anymore. But Instagram, I built up a following of about 9,500 ish. It seemed to fluctuate over 10 years. So 10 years of posting my photographs, and I built up a little following. It was not very active at all. I think I interacted with the same 50 people every time I would post work. So it was kind of I felt like I needed to bring it back to life. So why not try these reels? Everyone keeps saying reels are the new thing, although they've been saying this for about 3 years. I'd never dabbled. So I thought, okay, let's try something. Let's give it one last roll of the dice. What's the worst that could happen? And that what's the worst that could happen, although it's very easy to say, I'd spent the last few years cultivating this mysterious artistic side. So it wasn't really working in the way that I thought. I mean, although I was negative, I do think my photographs are lovely. I do. I think I produce good work for my couples. But I'm not a name that can just bring the bookings in. So I have to do something. Let's try these reels. So I went from the mysterious, artistic, quiet, creative person to suddenly walking around, pointing at text boxes and trying to give tips to my couples. And I did that every day for a month in January of this year, January 2024. So really, really recently, considering reels have been out for a little while and people have grown huge followings from them, I thought, let's have a try. So I walked around the forest near my house for a month, and I posted a few tips. I posted a few silly things, and at the end of 30 days, I lost followers overall. So my 30-day reel challenge ended in, on paper, it ended in disaster. However, what I slowly started to realize was whenever I posted something that wasn't a tip for my couples, if I posted something that was a little bit silly or a little bit relevant to other photographers, suddenly I had engagement. Suddenly people were talking to me. They were messaging me. Oh, I like the last reel that you put up. That happened to me last week. And I never get messages. I never get comments. I never get interaction. And I absolutely loved the feeling of another photographer messaging me and saying, just to let you know, I thought your reel was quite funny. And I thought, wow. So I've lost followers, but I've gained comments and engagement and messages and people actually talking to me. And I thought, you know what? This feels good to me. And I've spent too long now being slightly miserable with the whole industry. I'm going to continue to do the things that make me feel good. So instead of stopping the 30-day reel challenge at the end of January, I just carried on through February and through March, and here we are today with not quite a reel a day, but with quite a few people now following along and enjoying this, whatever this is that I'm trying to do. I quickly started to realize that interacting with other people and having people enjoy my content rather than admire my content or think, wow, what an amazing photograph, have some praise. I actually think making people laugh or making people nod along or making something that resonates with somebody else is a completely different mindset and a different feeling that to what I was doing with my photographs. I was just finding something in me that really enjoyed this different approach compared to what I used to do, which was to put a photograph out and wait for praise. I suppose, if I'm being honest with myself, I waited for praise and I waited for a couple to get in touch so I could do their wedding. Creating these reels and resonating with other photographers is a completely new thing. And it reminded me of when I started photography and I had that innocence and that lack of knowledge about how content creation works, about how this industry is supposed to work. I didn't know what a hook was. I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to cut things after 2 seconds or 3 seconds, or zoom in to keep people engaged. I didn't know about anything like that. I just did. I am doing what I did 10 years ago, which is to just kind of charge in head first, do the things that I like to do, and bring along other people for the ride. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. I'm still in that lovely stage of discovery where I'm working out what this all means. I'm starting to meet other people in the community. Every day I am honestly learning a new thing, and people are telling me things and I'm getting messages from people. Why don't you try this? And have you thought about doing this? And it's just this whole journey is really changed my mindset on the whole wedding industry. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. I'm not sure when it happened, but I feel like I've gone back in time. I honestly feel like I've gone back in time 5 or 6 years to when I was finding very simple joy in everything that I did. And all the cynicism that I've had has fallen off. And I've found joy with my photographs again, because now I've realized that I'm not stop trying to impress. Who am I trying to impress? I'm not trying to impress anyone. Post the things that I love. Post the things that make me happy. And if I do that and stay true to that, I seem to get a result. I've managed to grow a following that interacts with me, that leaves comments and messages me and likes my stuff. And if I can slowly grow an actual community rather than this rush, this viral rush of followers that is great for my ego, but doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme. I'm much happier doing it this way. Stay really true to what I'm doing. Post the things that amuse me, and see what happens after that.
It's crazy, I think, when you start to do things that you really enjoy, right? When you start to just become yourself and be comfortable to be yourself, that you then attract others. And I'm always surprised by the amount of people out there that are just like me, that just love the way that I present things. I have done things really weird on Instagram where I created an alternate version of me because I was like, I didn't have someone there when I was first starting photography to ask those questions to. So I'm going to be that person for other people. And exact same with you. I feel that comes through in your content as well, about your style and your own personal sense of humor is hilarious. Like, even though you're not actually saying a lot in your videos, it really comes through and resonates with a lot of people. And you see that with the people that are replying to all your videos time and time again. It brings that sense of community back that you didn't realize that you were like needing so much. And that expands you and your business so much more by having that brand be about you and your personality, and knowing that people are coming to you for you is a really special feeling.
I didn't know what a personal brand was until a month ago, because someone mentioned it to me and said, you're doing really well at building your personal brand. And I said, that's amazing. I opened another window and Googled, what is a personal brand? And I think that's fantastic, because it almost confirms what a personal brand is, in that I had no idea what I was doing. I just posted this. I thought this was the year. I'm either not going to be able to photograph people much longer because my business is dead, or I do something about it and try something different. So I went to that weird, well, it's not a great place, but it's a powerful place. What do I have to lose at this point? What do I have to lose? So I posted the things that made me happy. And after doing that for 6 months, it slowly started to change. It narrowed in on what I actually enjoyed doing and what I was able to create. I mean, I have very strange ideas sometimes on what I want to do, but there's a there's a skill imbalance of what I want to do and what I can do. So sometimes I have to rein myself in, and I'll create something else. So I'm learning every time I do something. I'm learning on what is possible. I'm learning about what is possible, and by doing that, I inadvertently have started building up this personal brand. So while while I'm really, really happy about that, the safest thing for me to do is almost put that idea to one side, because I don't want to upset the way that I'm doing things. So I'm going to continue to post the things that amuse me. I'm going to continue to interact with this wedding community that has suddenly sprung into life, and which I really love. And the other thing which I've found by doing it this way is I have now, without any negativity, I'm able to look at other people's pages and genuinely engage with what they are posting and with what they are doing, even if it's at the wedding venue down the road. Even if they're eating my lunch from my area, I don't care. I do not care anymore about the competition. Oh, it's that magic thing, community over competition. And I know that's a buzzword, and I know a lot of people say it. They say it on Instagram and then shout the opposite on Threads. But anyway, that's another conversation. I genuinely feel like I'm in that weird position now where because I'm slightly going in a different direction, I can enjoy everyone else's work and what they're putting out there and what they're doing without any hint of, I'm actually not complimenting you. I'm bitching about you behind your back. I'm not doing that. I can look at the work now objectively and leave some nice feedback, message the people, give encouragement, and it's just lovely. It really does feel like 2013 has come around again, when we were all a little bit less chronically online.
It's a really like freeing experience, I think, to realize that you can be you. You'll attract the clients that you attract, and everyone else will attract theirs, and there's enough to go around. I think, when you do, as you said, when you get into that slump of feeling like, well, every other person is my competition, and I'm not going to talk to them, I'm not going to engage with their stuff, I'm not going to help them, because anything that even if I speak to them online, that's helping them have more engagement, and, and then they could do better than me. It's a hard spiral to get yourself out of, and I think
That is so
what
true.
you've done is probably the best way in like realizing that if you just be you, no one is better at being you than you. So you're not competing with anyone anymore. You're like, I'm being just free out here to create what I create. It's a bit weird, it's a bit out there, but everyone has their own thing.
And we are taught this when we are photographers. We're taught this by other photographers. No one is better at being you than you. We're told this. This should be deep in our collective psyche. This is what we put on our websites. This is what we put on our About Me page. This is us. And we always say, your couples will resonate with your work, and they're going to book the people with the personality that matches theirs. So why are we so terrified by other people in the photography community to the extent where we don't interact with their work? We don't want to give them that engagement. We don't want to like the stories. We don't want to share the tip that they've given. It's very strange. We say a lot of the things that we don't do, and I don't know when that little light bulb went off in my brain this year, but it did go off, and now I don't care. Everyone can do what they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if I see something that I like in front of me that someone else has done, I'm going to like it. I'm going to comment on it. It doesn't matter, because I am 41 now. There you go. I don't know if anyone knew that. I'm 41 now. And, I can't photograph forever. So what am I holding back from at this point? Just get involved. Just do what you want to do. And what's the worst that can happen?
How was that transition though? Like you said, what's the worst that can happen? And I know that when you reach that point of like rock bottom, it's only up from there. But I hear from a lot of people, like especially starting on Instagram, starting to post reels anyway, changing your personality online, of like going from that dark, mysterious artist that just posts their photos every now and again, but doesn't really interact or engage or put their face to the work. How was that mindset, or that mentality to overcome that when you first started?
Yeah, that is a difficult one. And unfortunately, I know the secret. And I knew the secret before I started. And it's the secret that they will tell you in every course, I'm sure. And it's not really a secret. You have to be consistent. You have to show up. You have to make that post. And you can't worry about how well yesterday's post did. We see, when we see relatively newcomers who have exploded on social media, huge followings, and they don't seem to do very much for it. They are not the examples that we should be looking at. Absolutely not. They are the Premier League footballers of Sunday League football, which we all had aspirations as young kids, especially in my school. We all had aspirations. We all wanted to play in the Premier League. We all wanted to earn £50,000 a week and lift the World Cup. But there's a million people who want to play football. And as children, we knew after a few years that we probably weren't going to be Premier League footballers. But that didn't mean we could not go out and enjoy the game and play with each other. And unfortunately, it is the same in the social media world. There are those few accounts and those few people that will blow up, and it's not even worth worrying about why or how they did it. Ignore those, focus on what you do, and unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, no, not unfortunately at all. This is what you have to do. You have to post something. Post it every day. Post it every day. And learn what you're doing. Just like when we started photography, and I'm sure you were the same. You were in your garden taking pictures of flowers. You were focusing on your hand with your new lens. You were turning the lights off to see what your ISO performance was on your new camera. We didn't know what we were doing. We'd just get out there and we'd shoot everything. We would have hard drives full of crap. Every wedding I come away from, I have 90% of my photographs are absolute garbage. No one wants to see those. But we continue to try things. We watch tutorials, we practice constantly. And we never thought that we would buy a camera and start shooting weddings in Lake Como the following month. So unfortunately, we have to get rid of this viral mindset where you can go online, you can post something, and the next day you're a viral superstar and the brand deals are flooding in, and it was just that easy. Your personality and your charisma is just that good that you didn't have to do anything for it. It's not realistic. And a lot of adverts are selling the dream that being viral is this easy thing that anyone can do. And unfortunately, I think I am a good example. Actually, I'm old. I don't know how social media works, and it's taken me 9 months to grow a decent following with lots of engagement, slowly and steadily, by posting every day or every other day and showing up and replying to messages and commenting and being active in this community. And I'm so happy at where I am. And I just think that if I can do it, anyone else can do it. And I can show them, look, this is where I started in January and I lost followers. If I'd given up at that point, I'd made a fool of myself for a month. I'd lost 500 followers. I don't think anyone would have blamed me if I'd have given up at that point and sold the cameras and gone, do you know what? I don't understand the algorithm. I don't understand social media. What's the point? I quit. But I thought, no. I learned something in that January. I learned how to add captions to my videos. I learned that I needed more space around my video if I was going to point at something. It's no good going to get beautiful footage and then realizing that your head is at the top of the frame and I can't fit a caption in. There you go. I learned that about a week into January. I learned that balancing my phone on a tree branch to video myself is not a good move when it's windy. I learned that dogs, like this dog here, you have great ideas to put your dog in the video and it doesn't work. When you need him to do something, it doesn't work. He's got his own attitude on things. I learned that second week of January, so I gave up on that idea. But at the end of January, I thought, you know what? at the start of January, I didn't know how to put captions on a reel. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how what trending music was. I had no idea about all that. I didn't know how to tag venues in and all this kind of stuff. But by the end of January, I did know that. And then I learned a bit more. And then I learned a little bit more. And it's just gone from there. You have to start somewhere and look back and see what you've picked up. So to the people just starting, please overcome this idea that it's going to happen overnight. Just start, post that video, show your personality. And this bit is harder than it sounds, but try not to look too much at what other people are doing. In that, it's very easy to see a video, copy that exact format, and post it out there. But that's not who you are as a person. So try not to look too much at what other people are doing. Find your niche, talk about your niche, post it online, do it again, do it again, do it 30 times, do it 60 times. And I promise you, after posting 30 or 60 videos, you look back at that first video and think, oh, what was I thinking there? Now I would definitely do it this way. I would find better light. I would have a tripod to put my camera on. Maybe I'd look into getting a microphone. Maybe I'd look at doing this. It's all a learning curve.
How did you find your style on Instagram? What was it for you then? If you weren't, were you inspired by other people, or were your ideas just spawning out of nowhere for things that you've been thinking about for years?
But the ideas seem to come from lots of different places. They're my experiences of photographing weddings. They're what I see other people complain about online. Occasionally, I will see a video, and that will spark something. And sometimes that video is nothing to do with what we do. I might be watching a YouTube short, and it's something complete. It's about trainers, or it's about headphones, and something about what I've just seen will make me think, gosh, do you know what? That is just like me with my camera batteries. And I'll think, that is just like me with my camera batteries. Hang on a minute. And that's where an idea will come from. But with regards to the format of the video, I had no idea how I was supposed to do things. And short form content was not my speciality. It's definitely an art form that I didn't know anything about. So I was trying to make reels like short movies with wide shots and close-ups and slow motions and panning and no captions. And they were quite slow paced, and they did okay. But that's when I realized, just like photography, I have to cull harder. I have to be more ruthless with the edit. And I don't mean you have to do TikTok style super zooms and transitions and whooshing sounds and all that kind of stuff, which I don't tend to do. But you do have to edit harder. You have to make it better. Tell a story. I think telling a story was when a penny dropped at one point. And again, that links back to what we know as photographers: telling a story with your images of what happened on a wedding day. It sounds, well, what could that possibly have to do with reels and short form content? But it's the same. You have to have a start and a middle and an end, or a payoff. And they've always been my best performing reels when I've had an idea, I've gone to make it, and I've thought to myself, no, hang on. This needs a conclusion. It can't just be, oh yeah, we all leave our batteries behind at the venue. Huh. While that is something that happens to us, where's the story? So that's the kind of direction that I've started to take them. It's got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And that's where I think like the community aspect sort of comes in, because when people can relate, you will get people who engage with you and who are really interested in the work that you do. And as you were saying before, there's no use in going viral every single video, because the reason videos go viral is because they relate to everyone, right? Or they're very short, or they're catchy, or it's about a trending topic at the moment, they go viral. But really, do we know who those creators are? Am I turning up for every single video that they create after that? Probably not, because they make videos about a wide range of different topics that may be interesting. They may have some comedic value to me, but they're not speaking deeply to my heart, and they don't have the story and the connection that I really want. Whereas, if have someone like yourself who has built connection with a select group of people, like who you're talking to, the people just like you who have had those common experiences before, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot of messages from people saying how much they relate from all over the world from hearing your stories. That then is how you're able to grow a community and grow a good following rather than just a big following. It's more about the connection at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the worst things that can happen to you as a creator within a specific industry, is trying to appeal to everyone, because getting a viral reel suddenly gives you an influx of people that have, as you say, have nothing to do with what you're trying to do. And it really just waters down, and in some cases will destroy the community that you've built up. The people that engage with me are just like me. They have that slightly odd sense of humor. They have the same pain points as me. They do the same. They go through the same processes as me. We edit our photographs, we cull our pictures, we get to the wedding, we have the occasional disaster. All this stuff, which I've done for 10 years, is what I know. So this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what I'm going to do. And I can't see that changing too much. I'm going to start posting more about this journey into content, because I think that this is something that I've now lived and breathed for nearly a year. And a year is a long time in this slightly odd part of the internet, this content creation thing. So I feel like if I make it to next January and I'm still posting, I'm gonna have a little party for myself and say, yeah, do you know what? You stuck with this for 12 months and you haven't had too many mean people shouting at you on the comments. Everyone seems to enjoy what you're doing within the community. You've made some amazing new friends and new contacts across the world. Well done, you. Pat on the back, Andy. You've done it. 12 months. That's amazing. When I started out, and I just thought, if I can get through this first week, if I can show my face on camera, I'd never show my face on a video in 10 years, and I just thought, let's get through this first week. Let's show your face and let's see what happens. If Instagram don't ban you for putting this online, then that's a great start. Let's see where we go from there.
What's crazy is, I think about it like what you were saying before, is when you got to that stage with photography where you were like really content with your work, and then started to apply for all these awards, and you started to see other photographers who were, you thought were like much better than you were. You're now at that stage where other people are starting to look up to you and your work. And I often think that we're in a very privileged position where we can not put that much of a high bar on what we do. We don't, we can show people that just because we do it this way, you don't have to. You can go your own way and do your own thing. And it's not about comparison, and we don't have to get caught out by not having the awards or not thinking we're the best in the industry. It's not about that. As long as you're happy with what it is that you do, at the end of the day, you, as a prime example, you've been through the highs and lows of it, and realizing that at the end of the day, it's about being happy and finding community and being content with the work that you do. And all the awards in the world aren't going to mean anything. All the Instagram followers in the world won't bring that happiness if you don't enjoy what it is that you do day in, day out. So it would be great, to hear you speak about that more and bring more of that and show that to the world, because I think you're in a great position where you're already doing that for a lot of people, like looking up to you and your work.
It's a strange feeling, but yeah, you're right. It's there's definitely a mindset shift to get to this point, and I genuinely am finding so much enjoyment from the communications I'm having with people. Something that I've never really had over the last 10 years of working at my little desk in the corner, working on my photographs, very, very insular. You know where it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, getting that edit back. And we don't tend to talk to other people very much. Well, I didn't anyway. And this has unlocked something this year. The joy of being able to share information with people. And I can say that really genuinely, because finally I understand what you said earlier, in that I'm me. No one else can be me. So sharing information on how I make things does not matter. It really doesn't matter if I explain to people how I use various apps, or how I mount my camera, or what light I use, or what microphone I'm going to use, or what my ideal length of video is. It doesn't matter. I'm happy to share any information that people want. It's not a problem to me, because I know that I'm just making it up as I go along in my own way, and this is me, and I'm going to make what I want to make, and you make what you want to make, and let's just go with it. Let's do it together. If I can help, not a problem. Whereas I used to think, my gosh, if I tell this person how I shot this picture, they're going to go and take that picture, and I'm going to lose that work. And it's such a silly way of doing it, because I've always thought to myself, my couples choose me for who I am. They choose me for me, for my personality. So really, why should I care if another photographer takes my settings and my location and goes and takes that picture? They're not me. They might do things differently. The words that they use on their website and on their communications are different to me. I meet all my couples in the pub down the road, and we have a pint and we have some snacks, and I talk about their wedding. And at the end of our meeting, I say, even if you don't end up choosing me, it was lovely to meet you and have a drink with you. If you like me, amazing. If you don't like me, that's fine too. Please let me know, and I'll put you in touch with some other amazing photographers who have a slightly different approach to me that might work better. Because at the end of the day, I don't want the work if I am not the right match for that couple. I want them to go and find the perfect photographer for them. And my personality and my approach is very specific to me. And if it doesn't work for you, then it's not going to work on the day. I'm going to be hanging out with you for 15 hours. You think I'm an idiot. Let's not do it. Let's not do that. So why are we so obsessed with almost the opposite of that when it comes to our work on social media and the way that we interact with other photographers? When that penny dropped for me, in the community is not my competition, I was so much happier in what I was doing, and things are going in a good direction. I feel we're talking for a start the answer to the question that you asked about 15 minutes ago, to someone starting out from scratch and looking at this world of content and all these people who are doing it and smashing it and doing amazing things, get your phone, take a piece of that knowledge that you know, and go and record something. I mean, speaking directly to photographers, because that's my niche. That's what I know. But I'm sure this applies to people in other niches as well. Honestly, now taking a few videos of yourself and posting it online with a few of your thoughts about what you do is no problem. You have got that creativity in your soul already. Like, walk out that front door with a bag of cameras and you're going to go meet that bunch of strangers and create magic. And on a Tuesday morning, when there's no pressure, you can just record 30 seconds of something that could be of interest to somebody else and post it online, and then get back to editing your photographs. It's easy to get started. Just do it. You already do the hard bit. What you do as your job, photographers, videographers, florists, dressmakers, makeup artists, the hard bit is what you do already. This is just working out a few details of how you're going to get that message online to other people. But it's for you, for what you do, and for your mentality. It should not be a problem.
I dare say for you, Andrew, it was probably like how you started in wedding photography was the same of starting content creation. I like hear the sort of passion that comes through when you speak about both, really, but especially around the wedding photography and really wanting to just genuinely like meet people and tell their story and really document the day and give them something to have for future. And it's the same with creating content. It's like you just would love to put yourself out there to have community, to help other people. It's crazy how much, those two are the same. What was it for you, though, that made you want to start wedding photography?
I used to work. I'm a qualified quantity surveyor, and I don't know if they have the equivalent in Australia, but it's construction based. Lots of figures and contractual arguments, and lots of people shouting at each other and being very mean to each other. And I worked in a little office with no window, and it was after the lovely financial crash of, was it 2008, back in the day? So it was a very weird time to be in construction. A lot of companies were going bust. A lot of people were not being paid. It was a very miserable time. And I changed companies a few times. People were going bust. And eventually I landed with a nice little company. We did carpets for schools and care homes and things like that. So we looked after the floors. And I spent a week getting shouted at on the phone by angry customers. And I put the phone down one day and I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I'm fed up of angry people shouting at me and making me feel bad and negative, and going home and being negative and not looking forward to getting up in the morning. And it was just horrible. So it was not the fault of that company. It was the fault of that industry at the time. It was very bitter and negative, and a lot of people were losing jobs, and it was just not a nice environment. And I went to my cousin's wedding, and I saw the wedding photographer in action at the time, and I'd had a few pints, and I thought, you know what? That looks like a cool job. What a cool job that is. Everyone's having a party. Everyone's in a good mood. I wonder how you get into this. I went back to work on the Monday. I Googled wedding photography, and I hope my ex-employer is not listening. I'm sure they won't be. But I spent the next 6 months watching YouTube videos, buying courses, learning about cameras, and I thought, do you know what? I think I can do this. So I'd literally had no interest in photography. I'd never picked up a real camera in my life. I just made the decision after a few drinks that I had to get out of construction and I had to do something fun. I had a family member. I have a family member who's retired now, but he was a professional photographer for many, many years in Liverpool, and I asked him for some advice. He let me have a play with his cameras. He lent me an old Pentax digital camera, and I remember walking around. I walk around a field taking pictures of a horse that was in the next field, just to get a feel for things. And yeah, that was in about 2012, and I did some free photo shoots. In 2013, I think it was, I handed my notice in and I went full time with weddings. I found something that I love to do. I think going from that bitter, nasty environment of everyone yelling at each other to suddenly being around people having an amazing day, I probably felt that so much more than maybe someone who had a background in a job that didn't involve everyone shouting at you all day. And so when I went and did that first wedding, and the positivity of the people and the families, and then the party in the evening, and then showing them the pictures afterwards and having amazing feedback, like pictures that I took back then were not amazing by any stretch, but I treated it. I put everything into it. I did not approach it half-heartedly. I rented the equipment. I spent money to photograph that first wedding. I rented the best equipment I could. I got all the advice I could. I wasn't charging them for it. Oh gosh, I know there's a few people who don't like to know information like that, but I wasn't charging them for it. And I threw everything into it, and I loved it. And they loved the pictures. And I had such a buzz from that I thought, yes, I can do this. And it kind of snowballed from there.
I dare say it's only up from here for you, Andrew, and just throwing yourself into everything. And I'm sure you'll continue to do that. And it's definitely worked for you very well over the years. You've never been someone to shy away from throwing yourself in and just trying and just having fun, just experimenting and just trying to be you. I think that's, the best advice you can give to anyone, really. Anyone who's wanting to start, anyone who's already in that space that you were in and thinking that they're over it, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're not in a good place, haven't got the community. Just try something new. Try to be you and to stop trying to feel like you've got to be everyone else. And that is the best way to grow.
Well, I think that you yourself are a great example of this, because I see a lot of content now as I scroll through my Instagram, and not all of it engages me, not all of it resonates with me as I flick through, and a lot of it is to do with this dare I say this TikTok approach to short form content, which is very in your face, very quick, tries to grab your attention instantly. It often has the opposite effect on me. As soon as someone tries to grab my attention in the most obnoxious way, I just want to scroll past. Maybe that's the age that I'm at.
I'm the same, man. I feel
but
I feel you there.
When you appeared on my feed, I would stop scrolling. And even though I don't consider myself a beginner photographer, I'd watch your videos in a calm fashion. I'd nod along, and then I'd continue with my doom scroll. And it was only after seeing about 20 of your videos that I realized I wasn't following along. And I'm like, it's so strange that sometimes the stuff that we engage with and we like, real world gets in the way for that second. You're making a cup of tea, you're having a sandwich or whatever, and you forget. and then you popped up again and again and again. And it honestly, it took a little while for me to go, hang on, why am I not following this person? You're pretty much one of those only accounts where I'll stop for a second and actually watch what you're doing. And that is because I think possibly a little bit like what I'm trying to do. You are yourself. And I don't think you're trying to emulate anyone else. You're doing your thing that you like to do. You're calm. You're giving information out. You have this positivity. You are just someone that. So even though you're not, I now you might have all the tricks of the trade, the subliminal tricks that are working on me. But for me, I feel like you're not trying to grab my attention. You're not trying to grab me around the throat and say, "Watch this," and that has the effect on me that I'm going to watch this. You're being yourself, and that resonates with me.
Absolutely, mate. I could not agree more. I feel like that's a great place to end out this conversation. Just be yourself and sort of watch the results and watch, your happiness and your community grow, because trying to be someone else will never work in the long run. Trying to do things just because other people do them or because it's trendy at the moment in your photography, in your content, whatever it is, in anything that you do in business, anything you do creatively, you have to be yourself in order to stand out and be able to survive in this long term, because it is hard. It does get hard. But if you love what you do and you're just yourself, that's really the only way to guarantee that you enjoy it, because that is the only real success at the end of the day.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thanks for hopping on with me today, Andrew. I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you for having me on. It's always very strange to talk about myself.
Man, I'm sure a lot of people will take so much from this. I know I definitely have. You've inspired me.
Oh, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We'll definitely get you back again.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation half as much as I enjoyed having it. If you did enjoy today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you did leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Or if you're watching over on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below to let us know that you did enjoy this episode. Also, feel free to share this episode on Instagram and tag me at Mike Jeffrey Photography so I can reshare them on my stories. And also message me and let me know who you would love to hear on an upcoming episode of this podcast. I've always tried my best to be able to have conversations with people who are in the creative space and people that I think would be a good fit on this podcast. And I would love your input as well. In a very privileged position at the moment where, I'm able to reach out to people and have them on my podcast and have really interesting conversations with a whole range of people in the creative space and talk about their creative journey. So if there is anyone you would love to hear from, please let me know and I will do my best to try to get them on the podcast. At this time, I would also like to acknowledge the first creatives of the land on which I am recording today, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of so-called Australia. As we tell stories of today, I just want to reflect on how First Nations people here and across the globe have guided and informed our understanding of the creative journey. But until next week, friends, have a lovely week and I will speak to you all again next Monday. Bye. Editing and post-production on this episode was done by Mossy Media, and music was created by JWPATON.
Hey Mike.